Do you know what to expect at your asylum interview with USCIS? In this video, we're going to cover the 5 phases of an asylum interview. Check-in, administrative tasks, substantive questions, bar questions, and decision instructions. Knowing what to expect will help you approach your interview with confidence. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. A lot of the anxiety that people have over their asylum interviews stems from fear of the unknown. And not many people really know what happens at an asylum interview, so you may be stressed. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you right now what to expect for each of the 5 phases. First up, phase 1 is the check-in. You should arrive early at the asylum office and be prepared to go through security, which includes a metal detector. Make sure to leave any sharp objects or weapons at home. Bring your interview notice letter, identification documents such as passports, and any other forms of ID for yourself and family members. Also, bring the originals of any evidence that you previously submitted copies of. If you struggle with English, consider bringing a friend or family member to help with communications up to the security point. If you're going to be doing your interview in a language other than English and your interview notice indicates that you're responsible for bringing an interpreter with you, then be sure that your interpreter is in fact ready to meet you at the asylum office. After passing through security, you'll need to proceed to the check-in window. Now, the clerk will verify your documents, take a photo of you and your family, and make copies of any documents that you bring that you haven't already presented to the asylum office. They will stamp your interview notice paper to acknowledge that you showed up for your interview. Keep this and take a photo of it just in case. The clerk will ask if you have any additional documents for your case. Now, it's best to submit everything ahead of time, but if you do have anything that you haven't already provided to the asylum office, but which you want the officer to review, then now's the time to hand it over. Next, you'll be asked to wait in a designated area until your interview. Be prepared to wait for a while, possibly hours, in a crowded, noisy waiting room. Bring something to read, some snacks and water, and ensure that any electronic devices are silenced. Eventually, someone will call you by your name or perhaps the last 3 digits of your A number. You should memorize those 3 digits. And that takes us to phase 2, administrative tasks. You'll be led to a room where you'll sit across from the officer. Now, in some cases, interviews may be conducted through video conference. The officer will introduce themselves and may engage in small talk before giving you an overview of the day's activities. They'll have you take an oath promising to tell the truth and have you sign some forms. And they will then review with you your asylum application form to ensure accuracy. If any changes are needed, then they'll make edits to it in red ink. Now, this task, reviewing the application form, can take a long time and be a bit tedious, unfortunately, especially if a lot of updates are required to ensure that everything in the form is up to date and accurate. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. Okay, next up is phase 3 of the asylum interview process, the substantive question. The officer may ask some questions first about your life, education, and your job in your home country before turning to questions about why you left your country and why you're afraid to return. Give direct, responsive answers to the questions being asked. Listen carefully to every question and try to address them as squarely as possible. Keep your responses concise and focused on the most important aspects of your case. During the substantive questions phase, the officer will focus on past harm, potential future harm, and the motivation behind the persecution. The officer may want to discuss things that have happened to you in chronological order, or they may jump around in no apparent order. If you've been harmed many times, there's a chance the officer will focus on the first, last, and worst instances of harm. This approach, called the first, last, worst approach, is commonly used to try to expedite the interview. The officer will also ask questions to see whether you could be safe in your country if you were to just move to a different region there. They will ask about your time in any other countries before arriving in the United States if you were in fact in any other country. They'll want to know what your immigration status was in such countries to see whether the bar to asylum called firm resettlement might apply. The officer will confront you on credibility issues if inconsistencies arise in your statements. It's essential to stay calm and clarify any misunderstandings. The question and answer portion can be difficult, and you will not be allowed to look at documents during the interview. Instead, you'll just have to rely on your memory. It's crucial to prepare thoroughly for this phase of the interview. To be clear, it's much harder than most people expect. But with the right guidance and preparation, you can definitely increase your chances for success. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful, but you want more detail about the asylum interview, then click the card on the screen now to watch a very detailed training that I made about this topic. All right, on to phase 4, the so-called bar questions. In this phase, the officer will ask about any potential bars to asylum, such as criminal activity, fraud, or other things that can keep you from getting asylum. They'll ask you whether you're a terrorist or a criminal or have any association at all with that stuff. In fact, they'll ask you pretty much the same question about these topics in about 20 different ways. Now, it may feel like they're accusing you of something bad. Don't worry, they have to ask these questions of everyone. Just listen carefully and answer honestly. Finally, the last step, phase 5 of the asylum interview, the decision instructions. They'll tell you whether they're going to mail you a decision or whether you need instead to return to the asylum office to pick it up in person. If it's a pickup decision, you'll likely be asked to come back 2 weeks after your interview date. The officer will also explain the possible outcomes in your case. If it's a positive decision, your decision letter will say that you've been granted asylum, and that's final. Congratulations. If it's a negative decision, as the officer will explain to you at your interview, what happens next depends on your immigration status at the moment that the negative decision is made. If you don't have legal status, well, you'll be put in deportation proceedings. But you will have a chance to explain your case anew, this time before an immigration judge in immigration court. And that judge can grant asylum if they think you qualify. Now, the asylum officer will return any original documents that you provided and will send you on your way. And with that, you're done with your asylum interview. If you're ready to take the next step and get individualized help with your asylum case, then call my office today, okay? That number is 713-352-1593. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you are. Call us now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.